talk to them, go chase them down, go sit next to them. You gotta want it, right? You gotta want it. So let me just give you the 2 other questions we didn't do, and you can bring it up during lunch or on curve, should you wish. You can talk about it with these students. So the other question I had was role models. Who do you look up to as a role model? That's one question. And then the last question was just hobbies. What do you do in your free time? Now, I'm going to say, well, I have no free time because I'm a just, think about some sort of passion or hobby or two, and be very specific. If you're into cooking, or you like to cook. If you're into travel, or you like to travel. So try some of the follow-up questions. So going back, who do you look up to as a role model, and what do you do in your free time? So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to move on, and I'm going to end up with a little bit of talk on personal branding, okay, brand leadership. So, and this is all about how you stand out. And branding wouldn't be a topic unless we talk about leadership. Now, we all have different definitions of leadership. And I'm sure the entrepreneurs can all give you different definitions. So there's some of them that are there. I mean, this one I like particularly because it's all about articulating vision and setting people free, which I love. All right? And, leadership is important, of course, because it provides strategic direction and focus. It empowers people to engage and ignite people. The better leader you are, the more you ignite people, and the more you motivate them for change. So in this room, there's tons of leaders out there, and you'll find these entrepreneurs have done the exact same thing. And if you do that, again, your leadership is your brand point of difference, because every single person, particularly the entrepreneurs here, their leadership brand is different. It varies from person to person. But as long as that leadership is something, the leadership brand is something that is unique about them, it'll drive people to success as well as themselves. And branding, there's lots of definitions of brands. I'm sure people can talk about brand for years. What is the definition of brand? In this case, a living entity, it's 1,000 small gestures. Yeah, that's true in many ways. For me, the one thing I want to leave you with is that I think a brand is a promise to deliver an unmet need. It's a promise. So when you think of a corporate brand, Tim Hortons, what do they promise to give you? A good cup of coffee, a donut, or even more insightful, a place to hang out and talk. Right? It's some sort of memory connection. So it's a memory, it's a collection of experience with a name, a logo, or a symbol. It's the things you remember. What do I remember about Coca-Cola? I remember being a kid and drinking Coca-Cola on a hot day, and I still get in the bottles and I would chug it down, or get the cold can and chug it down. And I go to birthday parties and I drink 4 Cokes. I'd be on a bit of a rush. I was a bit of a sugar high, but that's okay. And then, and back in the day, we had brands that became the product itself. Kleenex. Can I have a Kleenex, please? They started calling it Kleenex, even though it's a tissue paper. The company's called Kleenex, and that's actually a pretty good brand to me. And again, key takeaway here: a brand is a promise. Now, top global brands, right? Anyone want to yell out what the top global brand is? Coca-Cola? Google? What else? Nike?
Microsoft.
IBM? Microsoft? So the latest report says that Google is now the #1 brand in the world. And again, how did they get there? Well, again, they have different metrics for different types of branding, but that's your top 9. Some people say Marlboro, China Mobile. What's that all about? Again, this survey had their own metrics, okay? And a lot of it had to do with revenue. Now, the benefits of a good brand. Well, if you have a good brand, there's recognition, there's trust, there's loyalty. People have a relationship. That's exactly what you want with a brand, a relationship with that brand. And that'll help your market share and ideally increase the dollars or revenue. But I like to add it increases happiness, because if people love your brand, they have a content feeling about being part of that brand. When I go to Tim Hortons, I feel good when I get that Tim Hortons cup. I feel better than going to say coffee time. That's just me. We're all different. And again, a relationship with a brand can be profitable. When I say profitable, it's not just dollars. It's not just dollars. It's connection. It's loyalty. Now, my brand experience, when I worked with Dove, one of the things that we did was we found out that we did a survey of women all around the world. We found that only 2% of women around the world would describe themselves as beautiful. And that bothered us. So we spent a lot of time just deciding on what can we do to get people to feel better about their beauty. And the Dove insight won the Marketing of the Year for 2004, and it came with the insight of focusing on real beauty of all women everywhere. And that insight, even though it was a fantastic connector, it also led to incredible brand growth. The first 3 years of that initiative, Dove brand grew 20% every year for 3 years, which is incredible when you think about it. I mean, double digits is great, but to get 20%, that is phenomenal, particularly for such an established 100-year-old brand in the marketplace. And you should think about what your brand experience is as an impact delegate. What is your brand experience here? Like when you come to Impact, what are you hoping to get? What is the brand of the Impact National Conference? Like, think of it in terms of words. Like, what words scream to you about impact? And first off is impact. But coming as a delegate, what words are you feeling in these first couple of days?
Vino.
Let's not miss out. Give me another one. Professional.
That's awesome.
What else? Entrepreneurship. What else? Opportunity. What about this event today? What are you feeling? Networking. Okay, so there's a brand with impact as well. Now, we talk about corporate branding and promise with consumers, but for me, what is a personal brand? A personal brand is a promise delivered to everyone you come into contact with. So, you're at this table, whoever you talk to here, what kind of brand are you giving to them? When I meet someone at the gala last night, or even today, what kind of promise am I giving? I tell people, here's what I'm going to do, but do I follow through on that? What do I promise to give you? Bobby promised to give you energy and people skills. I promise to follow up with you guys. I promise to give you honest answers. That's what I promise to give whenever you see me. So if you want to network with me, then you got to want to network with me. I want you to want to network with me. So that is a personal brand. So you have to think about that. Let's dive a bit deeper. I mean, what do you personally promise to bring? Have you thought about that? Because you should. What does Mitch promise to bring? What does Janani promise to bring? What does Kunal promise to bring? I'm naming impact. What does Alex promise to bring? What does Megan promise to bring? But then also, what does a delegate promise to bring? Because you want to be able to separate yourself and be unique. Now, some brands have personality. You have like Richard Branson. He's quite a personality, and that brand flows through into the corporation. Then you have, like someone like Obama who's become a little bit more human and approachable in terms of the office of the president. But note that we also have multiple brands for multiple contacts. My brand to my customer is different than my brand to my supplier, which is different to my employees. How I perceive, how I deliver that promise. And that's what really personal branding is all about. It's that variety of that brand. And again, personal brand, if you focus on it, it enhances your work in life. Now, I thought I'd give you a little bit of my own personal story here. I mean, what's the personal brand to my wife? Okay, that's a Simpsons avatar. You see, these are great. That looks exactly like my wife. It blows my mind. That looks nothing like me, except for the brown part. Anyway, what can my wife expect? What promise do I give her? The promise is I will always listen to her stories. She talks about work a lot, so but that's fine. I will support her, be her best friend. In fact, if she calls because she's pregnant and due like next week, I gotta go. Okay? But if she calls, then Alice will take over. And then connection. We have a special unique connection that we really love. That's the promise that I deliver to her. Now let's look at my son. This is my 2-year-old son, Niall. Now what is the personal brand to him? I mean, yes, Daddy will always pick me up if I ask. Daddy will always make goofy faces and sing songs. And Daddy will always have a connection with me. And that's my promise to my son. Then there's my mom. This is me actually, my mom, many, many years ago. And what's the number one personal brand of my mom? She thinks I'm rebellious. I was rebellious when I married a white girl. That's the first thing I did. But I just talked back and, she said too Canadian. Okay, fine. So I'm very rebellious. But she also knows I love her food. She makes some chicken curry and biryani and tikka masala and tandoori chicken. Oh man, that was eating it up. So she knows that. So she always like, come on over for dinner and have some food. Okay. You want some chicken? Yeah, I do. And then she also knows, even despite the rebelliousness, we have a connection and a bond. So that personal brand goes across 3 different important individuals in my life. Now there's certain differences, but there's also certain similarities. And that similarity, those similarities are really some of the things that are part of your major personal brand. So for me, my big personal brand is I'm a connector. I connect to people. Clicking. So again, some aspects of your brand affect everybody. So the question is then, what is your personal brand as, insert name here, what is your personal brand as Lauren? What is your personal brand as Sana? What is your personal brand as David? What is your personal brand as Michael? You need to take time to think about what that is. And we know about personal brand because, you know, in the classroom, in the workplace, or even here, you know those people that are, oh, this guy jokes too much. You know, she's always so serious and intense. That person doesn't say anything. You know who you are and you know who those other people are. Because those people are creating a brand. Which means that if you know that that person is a joker, that person is too serious, that person is too quiet, that person is too much of a jerk, then you're doing a similar thing. You are evoking a personal brand, which you should be aware of. So if you want that brand to be a strong brand, a convincing brand, an engaging brand, you need to be aware of that. And just some final thoughts. So a brand is delivering a promise. Personal brand, what do you promise to bring? And brand leadership is basically the driving force behind your personal and professional growth. And how do we do it? Communication is key, strong networking skills, and honestly having passion. There's people out there that they say they have passion and they're kind of quiet. You have to have passion. And again, really, you gotta want it. You gotta want to network with people. You gotta want to make a difference. You gotta want to stand out. You've had a session in your table. I'm sure you'll know from your table who was the one that stood out the most in terms of networking. You know that. And the entrepreneurs know it too. They remember. Because I remember when I sat at a table, the person that talked to me the most. And I even remember her name. And that's important because that stuff stands out. So if you were that person, you need to want it. Similarly, after this thing is over, you gotta want having to network with these people. I have all these business cards, so I didn't get a chance to actually talk to any of these people. You know what? I want to talk to you, so come talk to me afterwards. Get my business card. Let's share, because, you know, I'm willing to share, these entrepreneurs are willing to share, and again, as entrepreneurs, we need to work together and support each other. Because again, you are your network. Okay? And the network will build your brand, it will also build up your opportunities as entrepreneurs. So I thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.